What's up everyone, Darcblade here with another episode in my Guide in Destiny series. In this episode we'll be taking a look at the Titan Defender. Now remember, as always, builds I use in these guides are builds that work best for me and they might not work as well for you. Also, the damage numbers I quote in these videos are for PvP, as the levels are balanced, whilst in PvE you will be doing higher or lower damage depending on your level, gear and so on. Lastly, these guides are aimed at the endgame content Destiny has to offer. The Defender Titan is a void based class. They use void energy to create protective shields for both themselves and their allies, allowing the Defender Titan and their fire team to withstand large amounts of damage. Now moving on to talk about the 3 grenades available for the Titan Defender. The first grenade is the magnetic grenade. This is a sticky grenade that attaches itself to enemies. Now, unlike other sticky grenades in the game, the magnetic grenade explodes twice. This means that the grenade has the potential to dish out a lot of damage. As with all sticky grenades, the damage is increased if you are able to stick the grenade to a target. In PvP, the first explosion will deal 100 damage, followed up by a second explosion that causes 80 damage. However, the damage is increased by 65 if the grenade is stuck to a target. The explosion radius of the magnetic grenade is 5 meters. If you're able to stick the grenade to a target in PvP, this will ensure a kill. However, in PvE, this grenade is probably best suited for high priority targets rather than large groups of weaker enemies. The magnetic grenade also comes with a slight tracking mechanic that will allow you to stick the grenade to enemies more easily. But you should still throw the grenade with accuracy in order to stick the grenade to your enemies. The pros for this grenade is its high damage and secondary explosion. The cons for this grenade though are that it has a low blast radius and that you need to be accurate to get the most out of it. The next grenade is the spike grenade. This grenade, when thrown, will attach itself to surfaces, after which it will emit a torrent of void light that damages enemies. The torrent of this grenade is like a cone shape that will deal void damage to any target within it. The damage dealt from this grenade is actually dealt in rapid pulses that total for 100 damage per second for 4 seconds while in PvP. Spike grenades also have no damage drop off, meaning that a target will take the same amount of damage as long as the grenade touches them, regardless of their distance from the grenade. The cone radius, or distance in this case, is 12 meters. The pros for the spike grenade are that it can be stuck to surfaces, allowing you to block paths to enemies in both PvE and PvP. It also deals high damage if a target is caught in the damaging cone for its full duration. The cons, on the other hand, is that it's not so good when sticking it to the floor, and is better off stuck against walls. Also, as with all continuously damaging grenades, enemies in PvE will strive to move out of the area, similar to the Warlock's solar grenades and vortex grenades. The last grenade is the suppressor grenade. This is a unique grenade that when explodes prevents enemies in both PvE and PvP from using their abilities. It can stop Hive Knights from putting up their shields, falling captains from teleporting, and any guardian from using their grenades, melee abilities and supers while in PvP. It can also knock players out of their supers, like it will stop a blade dancer if he or her has used his super and bring them back to normal. On top of the disabling effect, you also get some nice damage from the grenade. It causes 140 damage in PvP over a 7 meter radius. A tip for this grenade is to save it for shutting down opponents when they use their abilities rather than just spamming the grenade, especially if you have low discipline. The pros for the suppressor grenade are obvious: its disabling effects, coupled with its moderate damage and radius. Its cons are that there are better grenades when it comes to bosses in PvE, as bosses and ultras are unaffected by the disabling effect. You also have to be careful, as if the grenade hits you, then you will be suppressed too, and you will not be able to use your abilities for a short time. Moving on to talk about the jumping abilities available to the Titan Defender. Your main jumping ability is Lift. This ability gives the defender a surge of acceleration while in mid-air, giving them extra height and then keeping them aloft for a short period. Lift can also be deactivated if you need to drop down quickly. You can enhance Lift in various ways. The first enhancement is increased height. This upgrades lift to allow the ability to carry you even higher into the air. The second enhancement is increased control. This will upgrade lift to give you better directional control whilst in the air. It will also give you +1 agility too. The last enhancement is catapult, a strange enhancement that provides a strong initial burst when using lift. This increases the speed at which you rise when using lift. Good at avoiding fire, but not so good for travelling. None of these abilities are outstanding, but I tend to stick with increased height as it gives you a lot more options in all game modes more than the others. The Defender Titan's super ability is Ward of Dawn, sometimes referred to as the Bubble. This allows the Defender to shape Void Light into an indestructible shield sphere that protects you and your allies from harm. Once the bubble is activated, it will stay active for 30 seconds. As this is a primarily defensive super, it generates orbs from taking damage rather than dealing it. It will spawn 2 orbs on activation unless modified by gear. The Ward of Dawn, once up, will stop all incoming fire whilst you are in there, but it will also prevent you and your teammates from shooting out of it. However, if there are enemies in the bubble with you, you can still exchange gunfire. The Ward of Dawn will not affect melee attacks from you, your allies or your enemies. If you can get your hands on the Helm of Saint 14, then you can eliminate any melee threat as your Ward of Dawn will now blind foes. This works in both PvE and PvP. For the best results, pop into the Ward of Dawn while you are taking damage and then back out when your shields have been replenished. A quick tip for the Ward of Dawn is that it can be used to safely revive teammates if you don't mind putting the bubble in an odd position. A word of caution though is that if the defender dies, the Ward of Dawn despawns, meaning that if there are teammates in the bubble, they will no longer be protected. Also be aware for both you and your allies that you cannot fire your rockets whilst in the Ward of Dawn, as you will end up killing yourselves. The Ward of Dawn can be enhanced in various ways. The first enhancement is Armour of Light. This will give you and your allies significantly increased damage resistance whilst you are actually in the Ward of Dawn. The increase of damage resistance is shown by an overshield you gain while in the bubble. A solid choice, especially whilst leveling up. The second enhancement is Blessing of Light. By simply passing through the Ward of Dawn, you and your allies will gain a temporary overshield worth 65 health in PvP for 10 seconds. This is a wonderful defensive enhancement for the Ward of Dawn that gives you and your allies a lot more survivability. If you lose your blessing, you can simply step back into the bubble to gain another one. One tip for this enhancement is to place the Ward of Dawn in a key location, so you don't have to run too far to gain the Blessing of Light again. The third enhancement is Weapons of Light. When the Titan or their allies pass through the Ward of Dawn, you will gain a temporary increase to your weapon damage. This is a powerful bonus that allows you to use the Ward of Dawn in a more offensive manner. The bonus to weapons is a 25% increase for 10 seconds. This buff can sometimes be key to dealing sufficient damage on bosses, in raids and on nightfall strikes. It might not be as devastating as other class supers in terms of initial damage, but it allows players to lay down sustained damage that over the duration of the buff can out DPS some other classes supers. A tactic, like with the Blessing of Light, is to put the Ward of Dawn with the Weapons of Light buff in a position that will allow players easy access to the Weapons of Light buff. The Defender Titan's melee ability is Disintegrate. When you kill an enemy with Disintegrate, it will create a void force barrier around the Titan Defender that will absorb incoming damage. This basically gives the Defender an overshield worth 75 health in PvP, potentially more in PvE for 15 seconds. The damage from Disintegrate is 110 while in PvP. This is a great melee attack that will allow you to survive through tough situations as long as you can get the melee kill. With this in mind, seek out weaker opponents or enemies on low health. Also with Disintegrate, the cooldown for this melee attack won't start until you've actually managed to kill an opponent with the ability. You can enhance Disintegrate in various ways. The first enhancement is War Machine. Once you have Force Barrier active, you will be able to reload all of your weapons blindingly fast. This will allow all your weapons to be drawn fast too, meaning that it will take less time to aim down sights. you will also have your sprint recovery and weapon switching speeds increased. The boost to your reload and handling is 150% of your base values. This can give you the edge in most firefights. The second enhancement is Gift of Light. While Force Barrier is active, all of your melee kills will create orbs of light for your teammates. This is a great source of orbs for your team. However, it does rely on you killing enemies with your melee. On the harder difficulties, this can be risky, so you want to aim at taking out weaker foes, or failing that, weaken them with weapon fire. The third enhancement is Unbreakable. This enhancement allows the force barrier created from Disintegrate to continuously recharge. Now this can be a bit misleading. The recharging overshield that it gives you will only last for the 15 seconds that the force barrier is up. However, without this talent, as soon as you lose your force barrier, it's gone until you get your next Disintegrate kill. With Unbreakable, the overshield will continuously recharge even if the overshield has been lost, as long as the force barrier buff still remains. And with the buff being 15 seconds, that's 15 seconds of increased survivability. This is a great bonus to the force barrier. Next, we're moving on to ability modifiers. Ability modifiers are found in the 6th and 8th column in the talent tree. Ability modifiers are split into 2 tiers. For the Titan Defender tier 1, you have the following. The first option is Bastion. This increases the duration of Ward of Dawn. Normally, the ward stays active for 30 seconds, but with Bastion, it will be up for 45 seconds. Having the bubble up for a longer duration means the fireteam has access to its buffs for a longer time. Also, the Titan Defender's super will start to recharge as soon as the bubble has been cast, meaning that having the bubble up for longer reduces the time between activating the next one. Not a bad option on an intellect heavy build. The second option is Relentless. This will increase the strength and duration of your force barrier that is created from Disintegrate kills. The force barrier's health raises from 75 to 95 while in PvP. Couple Relentless with Unbreakable means that you'll be a walking tank, a great option for PvP and strength heavy builds. The third option is Gift of the Void. This allows your Ward of Dawn to create additional orbs of light as it takes enemy fire. This is another great ability modifier that helps your teammate by supplying them with plenty of orbs and allowing them to use more supers. This is generally more useful in PvE than PvP, as in PvP, players tend to not attack Wards of Dawn when they see them, and instead will either wait it out or go in for melee kills. A tactic again with using Gift of the Void is to put the Ward of Dawn in a position where it will take damage in order for it to create them additional orbs. For the Defender tier 2 ability modifiers, you have the following. The first is Untouchable. This reduces the cooldown of your Ward of Dawn and gives you +1 armor. The cooldown bonus Untouchable gives you is 30 seconds. This is not a bad option, as setting up the ward ASAP adds to a team's survivability. Combining Untouchable with Bastion works wonders, as it lessens the time between having bubbles active, as well as giving a team longer access to the ward's buffs. The second option is Iron Harvest. This allows the defender to generate orbs of light when getting kills with heavy weapons. This is not a guaranteed thing though, as not every kill will give your team an orb. Nonetheless, it's a good support option. It seems to also work better with heavy machine guns rather than with rocket launchers, as you can potentially gain more kills with a heavy machine gun thanks to its ammo capacity and the ability to take down weaker foes with fewer bullets. Aim for weak foes for the best result, as you need to actually get the kill for the orb to spawn. The third option is Illuminated. Illuminated increases the buff that you get from Blessing of Light and Weapons of Light. Blessing of Light is increased to a 95 health shield up from 65, and Weapons of Light is increased from a 25% damage increase to a 35% damage increase to weapons. A big increase for both buffs. This makes Illuminated a great modifier for burst damage. This also gives your buffs more of an edge in both PvE and PvP. Next are the passive abilities. These are modifiers to your base stats, which include armor, recovery and agility. These are found in columns 5 and 7 of the talent tree. Now, I would say these are normally down to personal preference at the end of the day. Again, these are divided into 2 tiers. In tier 1, you have the following. Option 1 is Titan Codex 1. This gives you +2 armor and +2 recovery. Option 2 is Titan Codex 2. This gives you +2 armor and +2 agility. Option 3 is Titan Codex 3, and this gives you +2 recovery and +2 agility. With tier 2 you have the following. Option 1 is Titan Codex 4. This gives you +2 armor, +2 recovery and +1 agility. Option 2 is Titan Codex 5. This gives you +5 recovery. Option 3 is Titan Codex 6. This gives you +1 armor and +4 agility. Now in Destiny you have multiple specs and you should use what is best for you. However, I tend to spec the Titan Defender as follows. Normally I use magnetic grenades above the others. This is because its damage is high and is better at taking down tough mobs. I will sometimes switch to the suppressor grenade if the strike has lots of ability using mobs or when in PvP. With lift I take increased heights, as like I said, it feels a better all-round upgrade. For Ward of Dawn I tend to take Weapons of Light. However, if I find that I'm going down too much, I will switch to Blessing of Light for more survivability. As for Disintegrate, I take Unbreakable, as it increases your survivability greatly. With the ability modifiers, I tend to take Gift of the Void, as the extra orbs is valuable to the fire team I play with. However, I will switch to Bastion or sometimes Relentless if I'm playing solo. Next with tier 2 I take the Illuminated ability modifier, as the increase to Weapons of Light and Blessing of Light can really give you an edge in combat. That being said though, I do know some players who like to combine Bastion with Untouchable, as it gives you more access to your Ward of Dawn. With the passives I tend to focus on full armor, followed by recovery. Agility is not as important to my playstyle. With the build I use, I would advise trying to get as much intellect as you can. This will allow you to abuse the Ward of Dawn to its fullest, providing you and your team with cover, buffs and preventing the enemy from using their ranged attacks. Although, that being said, you should not neglect discipline or strength. On the harder difficulties in PvE, discipline can outshine strength at times, as you do not have as many opportunities to melee foes. However, in PvP or encounters with weaker foes, strength outshines discipline. So, these two are down to personal preference to how you balance them out. Overall, the Titan Defender is one of the most valuable assets to any fireteam tackling the harder difficulties in PvE content. It can also be a great deterrent in PvP. It provides cover, buffs and orbs that can help eliminate the tough foes in the game. It's a very support-based class in terms of its abilities. When on the offensive, the Titan Defender will need to rely on their weaponry to maximise their DPS. The Titan Defender also has access to some of the best survival abilities in the game. If you combine their high armor with the force barrier of Disintegrate and the Ward of Dawn, means that it's going to take a lot to bring this Void Wielder down. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my guide to the Defender Titan as I guide you through Destiny. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.